Good evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter, Minnesota. It is Monday, August 25th, 2025 at 7 p.m. We are called to order. Would all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have all received a copy of the agenda. Are there any revisions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. The minutes appear on pages 5 through 6 of the packet. Are there any revisions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as distributed?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We now have time on our agenda for a public hearing regarding Minnesota Avenue, Chestnut Street to Union Street. The instructions for the public hearing appear on page 7 of the packet. There's a staff presentation. If there's an applicant, they will make a presentation, and then there's time for public comment. And Pete is here to give the staff report, I presume.
Madam Mayor and City Council, as you're aware, we have been working with MnDOT on a project on Minnesota Avenue, Trunk Highway 169 between Broadway and Union. And for the purpose of the public hearing, we are looking at assessments between Chestnut and Union. At the July 28th City Council meeting, the city engineer submitted a feasibility study that showed that the project was cost-effective, feasible, and necessary. At the open house that we held on August 19th, city staff was available to address citizens' concerns along that route, and they had a good turnout and had good discussion. I'll remind you that the average assessment or the assessment for this project is per our policy. It is $8,050 for street improvements, $2,000 for each water or sewer that may apply depending on the needs of each individual property in the right-of-way. We also make available a waiver to properties that need work on private property, but that is separate from this project, and our water resources superintendent is in the process of making some of those changes. The improvements include roadway surface, curb and gutter, sidewalk and storm sewer improvements, lighting improvements, irrigation and medians, along with turning lanes at Ramsey and Scarrow Streets. The utility improvements include upsizing water services where needed, and most of those corrections are where the current water line does not meet the city code. New sanitary service main line, that's a 1930s vintage going down there that is of old clay tile, which is subject to I&I when the river level is high, which is currently going on right now. We also are planning to upsize wastewater service lines and make corrections where they currently do not meet code. We do have some clay services along with other issues along the main line there. Water main is not proposed at this time because we corrected that back in 2009 with one of the first phases of the Minnesota Avenue improvements. And it is proposed that this is an assessment project as per our current policy, which was adopted back in 2023. If the project is authorized, we're looking at collecting around $572,625 for assessments, which is roughly a little less than 28% of the total city share of the project, which is around $2,059,000. This project is the fourth and final phase along Highway 169 to be held in conjunction with MnDOT. As you're probably aware, this project would not start until 2027. We would do design and have plans ready to go or bid the project somewhere late next year for installation in 2027. We would follow our existing assessment policy, and we would be asking later in the program after feedback is taken for action on this item.
Thank Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm assuming no applicant's presentation, but there is time for public comment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is the provision or the portion of the hearing where public comment is accepted, and we'd encourage anybody that's here to participate. I do have one that corresponded through letter.
Oh, sure.
All right, so let me read through that letter, Madam Mayor. Dear Council, it came through Councilmember Ramp. Dear Councilmember Ramp, I'm unable to go to the council meeting tonight, but I and my husband live on North Minnesota Avenue and are really concerned about both the construction and the assessments coming our way in 2027. We have talked with folks from DOT and the city about the benefits coming our way, but all I see is fast trucks, closed street, and interruption and challenge to our business. Please take that into consideration when you make any decisions. There are other people and businesses who will be negatively impacted by this project. I'm hoping the City Council wants to support their businesses. This could actually close down some of us. Please give me a call if you want to talk more about this concern with me. St. Peter should not just end up a quick way for traffic to get to Iowa. We are a real neighborhood with actual people living here. Please slow down our traffic without major construction and ridiculous assessments. DOT's mission is not the same one that St. Peter needs to have. Signed, concerned citizen and business owner Patty Conlon, the goldsmith at Stone's Throw Gallery.
Thank you. Having received that, are there any people present here today who'd like to address the council on this matter? Hearing none, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is visitors' comments. We always keep time on our agenda for comments from visitors. We have time for visitors who'd like to address the council on an agenda item. Is there anybody who'd like to address this on an agenda item? Hearing none, we have time for general visitor comments. Is there anyone who'd like to address the council on another matter? Please come forward. Hi. We just need your name, your address, and we'll give you 5 minutes.
Perfect. My name is John Robishko. I am part owner of the Flame Bar and Grill. Would you like my home address or you want my business address?
Ooh, Todd, what's the process?
We are happy for either of those. Please
I can
share
give you
what you
both
feel
if you'd like. I live on 720.
where those are. Thank you.
I live on 724 North 4th Street here in St. Peter. Our business is on Nassau Street, right across the street from First National Bank. So what I'm coming here to you guys about today is to talk about the 2 Vikings games that are happening on September 28th and October 5th. Current city ordinance does not allow us to open up our businesses before 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings. And so with having a conversation with Dustin, we're kind of thinking about a way not to rewrite the policy, but to maybe be able to apply for maybe like a special event or circumstance type of thing that can come to the city, you guys approve with a timely manner. I know last year, I think the city was getting kind of hounded a little bit with multiple calls because of the Vikings game and they weren't prepared. I was trying to be prepared this year, so I went to the city a couple of times. And then, yeah, so that's my proposal, is to hopefully, let the St. Peter businesses, the bars or restaurants, be able to open early on Sunday for those Vikings games, because last year a lot of people went out of town and we lost out on that business, so.
All right. Well, thanks very much. Obviously, we can't give you an answer on
Yep.
the spot, but appreciate your time and coming down. Is there anybody else who's going to address on the same topic?
We're good.
You spoke on behalf of
Yep,
everybody.
everybody,
That's-
yep. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if the council wants us to take a look at this, we can certainly review the issue. I think John is exactly correct related to his expression of what the ordinance says and what the state statute is. I would provide just one clarification, however. Our ordinance doesn't stipulate that you can't be open. It stipulates that you can't sell alcohol until 10. So just so the council's aware of that, I know all of you have read the ordinance book and committed to memory, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew where we were at. And so we're happy to take a look at it.
The state of Minnesota is 8 a.m. until 2 a.m.
Yep, you are correct.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
So that is the Saints.
a St. Peter specific ordinance as far as setting it at 10 a.m.? Like,
Starting at 10 a.m., allowing sales at 10 a.m., yeah. So you are not alone in that. There are other communities that are in that same boat. But it's certainly something if the council has interest in, your city attorney and I can take a look at how that might happen. I would say generally, it's very likely that an ordinance change would be necessary, which certainly is within the purview of the council. And I'm sorry, John, I didn't write it down. I think maybe I did write it down. September 28th is the first one in England, or?
Yep, and then October 5th.
Okay. And so you do have time based on your process to make a modification if you wanted to, but we can respond back at a workshop if you'd like.
And just to clarify, my understanding is nobody wants to be opening at 8 a.m. every Sunday. This is just,
No, that is not it.
Okay.
So that's why we kind of talked about like this.
yeah, just for these sort of special events. All right,
Because I'm sure it's going to come up next year too.
likely, yeah. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
There's still time for general visitor comments if there's another matter. All right, hearing nothing, we were going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins with the memo on page 8 of the packet and concludes with a resolution that appears on page 27. It includes the consent agenda includes the following: temporary gambling licenses, 2 of those, one for River Valley Rock Mountain Elk Foundation, one for St. Peter Lions Club. Locations and dates listed within the packet. Consumption on display permit for Smolder Cigar Emporium, address and dates on the packet. The following employee appointment: Tanner Kendall to be umpire at the wage indicated in the packet. And due to the discontinuation of St. Peter Police Dispatch Services, the following employees printed within the packet will be separated from employment effective October 1st, 2025, as well as the schedule of disbursements for August 6th through 20th, 2025. And before we get into any discussion of the consent agenda, I know Todd had some information that he wanted to share.
Members, you'll see included in the packet a memo related to the discontinuation of dispatch services. And so there is no state statute that says if the council is going to discontinue certain dispatch services that you have to take action on that. But you do have a role related to employees. And I wanted to be really clear that the employees that you see listed here, excuse me just a moment, I'm going to scroll down here. Have been fantastic employees, and I think the least tenured dispatcher that we've had has been with you 6 years or so. So they have been fantastic. I think the memo articulates very clearly where we are at, the discussion that the council's had, and really, from my perspective, the long-term discussion that not only this council but other councils have had about a potential change in this area. This will have an impact on the community. It really won't necessarily change the kinds of or the levels of services that you have or your constituents will see, but it will certainly change potentially the location where they receive some of the services that they have. I think it's also important to note that from a city perspective, certainly from an administration perspective, the number of calls that are emergency calls that you receive at your dispatch center have continued to drop with the growing utilization of 911 services. I mean, we're all trained now. Our kids have been trained. If you have an emergency, call 911. And those calls have been going through the Nicollet County Sheriff's Office for many, many, many years. Someone had asked previously related to how many cities have their own dispatch services, and I actually tried to do a little bit of research on that, and it's not really clear, but I believe based on what the state calls PSATs, that there are 6 other communities in the state of Minnesota that have emergency service response dispatching. And it's not even a unified dispatching like we see. It is a singular dispatching for one level of service. Typically, it's for police department. And so a couple of those communities are Edina and Eden Prairie, a couple of those kind of folks. So you are clearly, at least from my view, the smallest and one of the very few or last that have dispatch that is really geared toward just your city services. So again, we would certainly, if the council takes action on the consent agenda, certainly these folks would be separated from employment. As you're aware, we have severance package that's provided to them. If you are anything, you are a taking care of your people first group. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that appropriately. And certainly, as we move forward to that October 1st date, we'll put out lots more information to the community as a whole so that they understand. But again, I think the services that people have come to expect will still be provided. They just might be provided at a different location or in a slightly different manner. So I'm happy to answer any more questions about that if you want. But again, the reasons this is part of the consent agenda is because that employment is something that councils have to take action on under state statutes, and you're statutory a city. Again, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to answer questions about that issue or about anything that you have on the consent agenda.
Any questions for Todd or any discussion on any item on the consent agenda? All right, we've had extensive discussions about that, and so appreciate that there will be more communication about how people reach the police department, other functions that dispatch serves in St. Peter, so more to come.
Yeah, and we're very grateful to the Nicollet County Sheriff's Office as well. They've been very collaborative and cooperative on this, and they'll be a great resource, as they have been for many years, for those emergency service dispatching
Good point.
opportunities.
Thanks very much to our local sheriff's department. Seeing no hands, we're going to move on with the approval of the consent agenda if there is a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We have no items of unfinished business before us tonight, and so we will move on to new business, the first of which is the 2024 audit review and acceptance.
Madam Mayor, Jim Eichten is here, and I'm kind of you used to have a long, firm name with lots of vowels and things in it, and now you don't. Yeah, so Jim, thanks for being here. We really appreciate that. So Jim is here, and Jim, the firm that your previous firm merged with is now called?
L.B. Carlson.
All right.
So that's way easier, right? Malloy, Montague, Karnowski, Radosevich. if
There
you're
you go, yes.
Familiar with the last
That was a lot.
That was a lot. Yes. Saved a lot on trying to explain all the names, that's for sure.
So Jim, I have your presentation. Hopefully it'll go here. There we go.
There you go.
All right.
Well, thanks, Todd. My name
Thank
is
you.
Jim Eichten with L.B. Carlson, and yes, my firm that I've worked at did work at for 35 years, merged with L.B. Carlson as of January 1. L.B. Carlson is a one-office, I should say that. We have an office in St. Cloud as well, but a main office in Plymouth, and we're not much larger. We're about double the size as we were, but it certainly provides a lot more resources to the table for a city like yourselves. My whole entire team moved there. We moved the entire staff over there, so the services to our local governments haven't changed at all, and it's definitely a benefit to myself and my team, but also to our government clientele for sure. So I'm here this evening to provide an audit report for the year ended December 31st, 2024. As you can see, the role of the auditor in my PowerPoint is to provide an opinion on the city's financial statement. The financial statement looks like this. It's about 150 pages long. If anybody's interested, you can read all 150 pages. There's a lot of great information in there about the city's financial results. My role, again, with the city is to provide an opinion on that annual financial statement. It is required in state law that you have an annual financial statement prepared. It is required to be submitted to the Office of State Auditor, which we will do with acceptance this evening if it hasn't already been submitted. Part of an audit process is you're required to audit, or I'm required to audit your internal controls over financial reporting. We're also required to audit your compliance with Minnesota laws and regulations. We don't audit all the Minnesota laws, only the laws that are provided on a list by that Office of the State Auditor. So in my audit reports that were issued, I issue what's called a management report, and in that management report, we try to summarize the results of the audit so that you could read through that and understand what happened without having to cover 150 pages, actually. So first and foremost, I was able to issue an unmodified opinion on that basic financial statement. It was the opinion you're looking for, a clean opinion this year. I mentioned the internal controls that I audited. You'll note there's a couple of findings there that I'll talk about briefly. The first one relates to financial statement adjustments. This is a finding that we had last year as well, and it continued into this year. Anytime an auditor like myself gets into an audit and goes through the financial statement closing process and has to make adjustments that they identified themselves without a staff member or the team at the city finding it or notifying it before I find it, it is considered an adjustment to the system. Your own system of internal controls should be identifying that without me being part of that particular process. So as financial statement adjustments occurred, you'll see that your financial report is complete and accurate with my assistance. And that's a weakness, ultimately, in internal control. As you can, all of you are aware, there's a new finance director in town. I just met him a few minutes ago, had a number of conversations, actually. And we've discussed this particular finding. And the reason I bring that up is any audit of this nature, and you've heard me say this before, it's not so much about the finding, it's about how to correct it. How are we going to come back here next year and not have this finding again? Yeah.
Was it the same adjustment as last year? Was it the same spot, or was it a new? New adjustment
there
this
is
year?
many new adjustments that happened.
Okay.
In
So it
fact,
wasn't
some
a
of the
repeat.
adjustments, so some of the adjustments that we had last year were identified and scheduled out as part of the audit process. And the city actually asked me and my team to do those in advance to help you through that process. Those particular adjustments weren't included because you identified them in advance as weaknesses. And so we kind of scheduled those out, put those over here. Now we found more or differing ones.
Thank you.
A great question. So that being said, we, and Todd and everybody else has seen this list of adjustments and are immediately working with me to identify the how to improve, how to fix the errors and understand what's happening and correct them so that we don't have this again. That's really where we're at with that particular plan. I don't know the new finance people, Perry, all that well. I read his background and I know that he has background in doing this sort of thing. So we're going to work towards that and work towards correcting that particular adjustments going for next year. Next particular weakness that you see there. So the city has had what I would define as segregation of duties, weaknesses, and internal controls in your finance office. It's purely by definition. Segregation of duties is eliminated generally by more individuals. To have a perfect segregation of duties within your internal control system, you have to have multiple people kind of covering each other and having a system that flows through the system by having each individual covering different transactions. And you're just not that big to have a segregation of duties, to not have that finding. That's been the place that the city's been in for years. So we go into this audit with that understanding. I know that I start my audit in that place. I know that I'm going to have that finding before I even send you a contract. That's just the place you're in. I accept that. The city accepts that. And frankly, most cities accept it that are at your size. Perry and I actually had a discussion, and he has some ideas around that. That might be, he might have some ability to eliminate that. So I'm open to that particular conversation. If that improves the overall system and policies and procedures and controls of the city, certainly we can work towards not having segregation of duties. So that'll be an ongoing conversation as we go towards next year's audit. Lastly, I mentioned that we audit your compliance with Minnesota legal compliance and some of the laws and regulations. We did have a finding this year related to collateral. Anytime the city has deposits in a bank that exceed FDIC coverage of $250,000, you're required to have collateral assigned by the bank, or they can issue a surety bond as well to cover that amount. During our testing, we noted that collateral that deposits exceeded those collateral coverages. I forget which bank now, but it exceeded those amounts at one time. Actually, it was in June. Pioneer Bank, there you go. So we did issue a finding specifically related to the testing that was done for June of 2024. By the time we audited the year end in December, collateral had been fixed. It was in an adequate place. So back to I guess you could say my point of what's the corrective action plan here? Well, there really isn't one. Because it's already been corrected. It is something to be cognizant of, though. It should be an ongoing process, and it should be an ongoing thing that happens on a monthly basis to make sure.
Is the bank responsible for having the surety bond then that we put it with if they don't have the collateral?
It is the responsibility of the city.
Or Terry's got his hand up.
You gonna answer that one for me, Trey?
Well, it's one of those vendor things. So they are responsible because we tell them
Mhm.
this is something they're
Yep.
responsible for. There are times when communication in smaller banks gets mixed around. But not to steal your thunder, this
Nope.
is one of the ones that we've already corrected for this year.
Yep.
We no longer go to collateralization because collateralization had to happen at 110% level. The banks were very happy to move this to something that's called ICS Intrafi, where all of our deposits get sent out to a network of banks in under $250,000 FDIC limits. And so we are done with this check.
Great.
Jim's very happy to not have to even test this next year, other than making sure we're on Intrafi.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation. That's great to hear.
Yeah. We did actually have a conversation about that. He asked me if I had ever seen it before, and I said it's very, very common. The system that you went to is a very common thing used by multiple local governments that we work with. So, one other thing, I will move on to the next part of the presentation. I do want to make it clear that one other item. If the city were to receive more than $750,000 of federal dollars, you are required to have a single audit of federal awards. For this particular year, the city did not exceed that threshold. So you won't see any information on that in my PowerPoint, but at times we do exceed those thresholds and have a single audit like last year. And so it's something that we monitor. Perry asked me some questions, even was it yesterday, about that. So he's been digging into making sure.
If I can comment, it's $1 million for this year.
It is. Starts in October of 2024.
Yep.
Very nice. So in my report, we do then move into what I call the second part of the audit process, which is the financial results. In my management report, we have a number of graphs. I'll cover some of them here. The first one is just a graph on taxable market values, really just to give you a sense for how much the taxable market values are increasing in the city and have over the last decade. You can see there 2023 and 2024 are noteworthy increases in the market values. That is impacting some of the tax rates. This is just a graph showing some average tax rates in the city. It does include the county and special districts in the school district. You can see that your, albeit the average tax rate is flat for 2024, albeit you had a tax levy increase. So that increase is being taken up by market values and keeping those tax rates the same. In my report, we do provide some information on governmental fund balances. You can see here that overall fund balances increased about $5 million. Most of that increase in fund balance is actually bond proceeds that have not been spent. You had some bond issues that came in, and those are unspent in some of the capital project areas. The general fund did see an increase of about $450,000 this past year. It included expectations in the budget, where the budget reflected an increase of a loss of about $170,000. This particular graph shows the general fund financial position of the city over the last 5 years, using fund balance and cash balance as indicators of equity. Expenditures shows kind of the volume of transactions. Are you getting larger as you go through the years? You can see in that particular graph, the fund balance, the equity position of the general fund has been stable as all of the years presented. In 2024, the fund balance as a percentage of operations, as a percentage of expenditures, ended the year at about 50%, 51% if you include the restricted dollars, 50% if you include just unassigned. The city has a fund balance policy that states that you'll strive to maintain a range of 35 to 50%, a very standard percentage that is really a guideline of the Office of State Auditor. So you're just above, that range in a good place in your general fund. We do provide some information on general fund revenues and expenditures compared to budget. This particular graph actually then shows revenues on a 5-year time frame. Revenues this year were above budget by about $300,000, $374,000. Most of that was in investment earnings. You had some increases, revenues from insurance claims. You also had a sale of a capital asset that hit the general fund, the fire station. Doesn't show up on that particular graph because it's actually categorized as a different category, but it did impact the general fund financial position this past year. That particular graph, a couple that stood out to me when I look at that one is the intergovernmental revenues. You can see that increased in 2024. Most of that was an increase in local government aid. I did previously mention the increase in the tax levy. You're seeing the tax line increase steadily there, albeit an increase. You didn't have an increase in the rate as mentioned earlier, so that's definitely a positive thing. On the expense side, expenditures were about $100,000 more than budget for the year. Most of that was in capital projects, capital outlay, exceeded budget by $360,000. That was offset by less than expenditures in your park and rec program, some mainly due to open positions throughout the year. Absolutely.
Capital outlay, can you talk about what that means?
Capital outlay can be it can be anything that would be considered a one-time expenditures for capital. So it can be a wide variety of things. It could be equipment. It could be infrastructure. It could be it could be anything.
And Todd mentioned it's something that's a long term. You hold on to it for a long.
Right. Usually it's more than 1 year type of project.
Something that be depreciated.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we do include the depreciation in your financial statement.
But as a government, for fund balance, that's a direct hit. It's not depreciated for fund balance. Yeah. That's part of our health of the organization. So, as a caveat, Jim, I apologize for interrupting. We're going to see that increase, and I'll talk about this in much more length as we go into budget cycle. It has a lot more to do with reducing regular operating costs, although it's also projects that we are engaging in. So there are times when that number is kind of difficult to track year to year and get a good comparison for. I would much prefer to have little asterisks on that saying, this is when we did this project, this is when we did this project, et cetera.
Some projects can carry over as well. Absolutely. You might have a project that you budgeted 1 year that carries into the next, or you thought it was going to be in 1 year and you did it the next. So it can be hard to budget, to be truthful, and can impact next year. So, each budget kind of stands on its own, to be truthful. The city also has a number of enterprise funds. As you can see there, you have a graphical presentation of the change in financial position in each enterprise fund. The funds collectively are impacted this year by some what we'd call contributed capital. Anytime the governmental funds, your capital project funds, build something that is ultimately an enterprise fund, when that particular program or project finishes, it gets contributed to these funds. So those particular contributions of capital got recorded this year to the tune of about $3.1 million, which is most or all of the majority of the increase in equity position came from those capital contributions. We do provide a graph of each individual fund. This is the electric fund. You can see here the line that I like to focus on is the green line. The green line is income before transfers and contributions, but it's a reflection of cash flow. Is this fund cash flowing itself? You can see that line is very steady. The city has a fund balance position, a net position policy of at the end of the year. The city recommends to strives to maintain a fund balance net position of $2 million. You're slightly below that, about $1.9 million. So it's holding steady, but the electric fund certainly is seeing is something that it continues to thrive in the city, but it has some improvements that can be made in terms of equity. The water fund is a fund that was impacted this year, but because of weather. You can see that green line actually went down. Consumption in this fund caused overall revenues to decline of about $300,000. That was pretty much experienced all over the state. Weather this past year, or last summer, it would have been 2024, was quite wet, so there was a lot less watering and things of that nature going on, and that was impacting this particular fund. But this past year. You have an environmental service fund. This particular fund, at the end of the year, had a change in net position of about $100,000. But you can see there's significant growth in overall revenues this past year in this particular fund that stand out to me. And then on the next graph, you have a wastewater fund. This particular fund, you can see the green line has been steady, positive for some time. I think lastly, you have the stormwater fund. This green line is below the line. This fund does stand out to me, though, and you have a net position that's sufficient in this fund. It's you have a policy that states it should have about 4 months of equity position. It has about 17 months. So even though you're showing operating losses in that fund, it has a healthy net position. So lastly, I do have some debt, some schedules on debt. That were put in here a number of years ago based on council requests. We do take the overall debt of the city compared to the population of the city and put a per capita number and try to compare that to the state. This past year, you had some issuance of debt, which is increasing that general obligation debt. You can see it's now slightly above the averages statewide than when it has been traditionally below the statewide averages collectively. I think when you look at the next graph, you'll see these are the enterprise funds. You can see there in that particular graph that the water fund, based on past capital programs, does have a significant debt to pay down. Those debts have been going down for some times, but you can see that number comparatively to other cities is quite significant. So overall, when you look at that graph, you do see the city's debt load is substantial. So lastly, this graph does show some information on government-wide summary statement of net position. Most people don't look at this information. I just like to put up the snapshot just as a one-time look. Overall, the city's net position increased about $2.3 million when you include all of the capital, all of the depreciation, all of the activities. You can see here that it increased by about $2.3 million. So that being said, my presentation has ended. In summary, I was able to issue a clean opinion on those financial statements. I had the 3 findings to report. There were 2 findings from last year that did not repeat himself. The corrective actions we discussed last year did work to be able to come forth and not have current year findings this year. Talked about the improving general fund financial position and your adherence to that fund balance policy, improving net position in your enterprise funds. The city did implement some accounting standards this year. This year it was on compensated absences. There was a tremendous amount of work that went into implementing a new standard on the compensated absences. And lastly, I just want to state the last piece and the importance of the city's commitment to this process. The city takes it very seriously and has for some time of the audit process, and that's a joy for me. It's very challenging when people don't want to be audited. Nobody really wants to be audited, but if you're not committed, if you're not committed to making it a success, it can be difficult. So you've always been committed to the process, and the results come through. And I expect that next year will be just as good. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you might have for me.
Thank you very much. Questions? Carrie?
The debt per capita data that you collect, where does that come from?
Yeah, we're taking the debt for the cities coming right from your financial statements.
Statewide.
Yeah, the state
excuse
auditor's
me.
office issues Excel schedules of every city in the state's debt, summarized by year.
And I'm assuming that lags a bit, because I just noticed that those numbers were 2022.
Yeah, the most recent data is 2022. Yeah,
Okay.
so they lag quite a bit.
It's still
and
helpful to
it's
see.
actually
I was
mo-
just curious
yeah.
about.
Is that bifurcated by size of city?
No, it's pretty much every city. So you could bifurcate the data if you're interested.
Yeah.
He's interested.
I think you should.
I agree with Terry. I do think being able to compare apples to apples, based off of, what do we look like compared to North Mankato versus what do we look like compared to Minneapolis?
Or some smaller communities, because
Yes.
there's a lot of smaller ones in
or
there as
Waldorf,
well.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
And if I may, just a comment. I always think it's really interesting to read through the audit and just to see how we did with our plan. And it just seems like year to year and a budget is a plan. We're never gonna hit it exactly. But I think the planning that's done and all the work that it takes, the finance office, administration, all of the department heads and their teams, putting together the budgets, this is our report card in a sense to say, like, we're very, close, and there's unexpected things that come up, expenditures and revenues, even, and so, but we're fairly close, and that, I think that's great. One thing that I always look at too is just where we landed with reserves, because I know when we have we're going to have our budget conversations really soon here, but we're careful about how much we're dipping into reserves to balance things out, and but the last few years we have come out ahead of what we thought. So I think about that in terms of, like, is there a little bit more room to move there, I guess, because we are all very conscious of the delicate balance there is with property taxes and the funds that we get from local government aid and our enterprise funds, and we're a little bit in a sticky spot in St. Peter with the amount of non-taxable property. So,
Yep.
this was very informative. Thank you for all your work, and thanks to the finance team for all their work as well.
One thing, looking at the cost of debt per capita, one thing I wish we were able to have 23, 24 data, because we're seeing our real true number with the increased cost of construction, the increased cost of doing business and keeping a city like ours running the way we want our city to run. So it would be interesting to see how close those numbers compare to statewide numbers next year.
Mm-hmm.
Are they on par?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's not a huge difference between 2022 and 2023's numbers. We're looking at $204.
Right.
I see a sparkle in
You know.
Carrie's eyes, so I expect that
If you
we'll
don't
be.
mind if I can make a comment on that, it's just not apples. I mean, as Bradley said earlier, Councilman Devil said earlier, it's not apples to apples. We're a different community, and I think the quality of the services that we provide are on a completely different level of the debt structure of other places. And frankly, most of you are business people. Leveraging is the way that you actually get more out of the dollars the taxpayers give you. We are capable of borrowing at rates that actually make sense. And sometimes you have to make those investments in a way that this comparison is maybe not the right way. I mean, yeah, we should be excessive, but there's a way to look at this in our lane and in what we are actually doing that makes it a little bit different. So, and I plan to please bring this up a lot. I really appreciate your questions, and this helps me focus on how I present the budget over the next few weeks as we do.
Yeah, my main point to that was we saw an increase of $204 if we compared 2022's numbers to 2023 actual St. Peter's cost per capita of debt, which is less than a 10% increase. However, we know from budgeting, cost of doing business, we had a higher than 10% increase in cost of doing business. So, not bad, I think.
Discussion. We obviously enjoy having you here, so thanks so much. It sparks a lot of conversation, and we're excited to start our budgeting process very soon. Perry, yes.
Before you get to the resolution, I'd like, Carrie, I appreciate you saying the thank you to the finance team. I have some of my finance team here.
We appreciate
I would like to
you.
recognize
Thank you.
them. I was not part of this great set of financial statements. I came in right at the tail end of the audit, but I would like to thank them because it's their work, and what my team does is not always seen or appreciated. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, if I could, there is a resolution in your packet, but before you get to that, I would mention that these financial statements, all of the information that your auditor provides to you is included in the packet, but it will also have a home on your website within the next weekish or so. And there's also hard copies that are available for review at the library. And traditionally, that's what you've done. So we want to make sure people can see this and go through the 154 pages all on their own if they would like to. So.
And I have to say, the report is very well done and accessible, I think, for average people who don't work in finance as a profession. And so I always appreciate that about the information you provide us. So.
Madam Mayor, there's a resolution in the packet.
All right, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion to approve the resolution accepting the 24 financial statement together with independent auditor's report?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thanks so much for
Nice to
coming.
see you, Jim. Thank you.
Yep. All right, we are going to move on to our second item of new business, which is the Minnesota Avenue Chestnut to Union Street project. And Pete's back up.
Madam Mayor and City Council, I don't have anything additional besides the recap that we have there. What we're asking you to do tonight is to approve the resolution on page 223, which orders the improvement and allows us to move this forward.
Thank you, Pete. Ben?
So, one of the concerns from the resident that sent the email was speed, and I know we can't change the speed of 169. It's a state highway, and we've talked, we've made suggestions. It is what it is. MnDOT's in the business of moving people from point A to point B. We understand that. It is what it is. That's their business. However, with this redesign, there's a plan of putting trees down the center of 169 as well as down both sides.
That's correct.
Now, can you explain how just by doing that would naturally slow traffic down?
Right. Traffic calming is one of the considerations that MnDOT is working with us on specifically to help us with that concern. We are hoping that with the growth of trees and other plants in the area there, we will have people think that it's more enclosed, which usually requires the speed, or you follow up with the speed going at a lower pace. So we have talked with MnDOT about that, and that's critical to the design, and they have allowed some of their staff to participate with us with that goal in mind.
Thank you.
So just that we clarify, tonight we're just discussing not whether the project MnDOT is proposing moves forward, but just all of the basically utility work around that, correct?
Right. You're basically allowing this project from an assessment point of view to move forward.
And at this point, MnDOT has already indicated that they view the project as not needing municipal consent, so even if we objected to it, project would be moving forward. So as we decide this, we're at least looking at it from a utility perspective. My opinion is we need to prepare to do the utility work because this project will be moving forward. So just so that we're clear, the only thing we're actually voting on tonight is the utility side of things. So.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing nothing further, the resolution appears on page 223 of the packet, ordering improvement and preparation of plans and specifications for Minnesota Avenue improvements from Chestnut to Union Street. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thank you, Pete. Moving on, a call for a public hearing, 2025A and 2025B certificates of participation for municipal building project.
Mayor, members, as you know, Shannon is typically here. However, he had a previous engagement that he's attending to, so I'm happy to answer questions as best I can. This is really calling for what you've heard us say, call a TEFRA hearing. So this hearing is required based on the type of debt we are planning to issue should you move forward related to capital improvements at the Scholarship America building, or what we're now calling the new City Hall building. This would set the hearing at September 8th. And again, it's a requirement under the law. The resolution that's included sets that hearing.
Any questions or discussion? Brad?
Do you feel that the amount you're requesting is adequate, for any potential overruns?
Based on the budget that we have currently, I believe it is adequate. However, it is important to note, and I think we may have talked about this before, the number can move 10% either direction, and you're still within the requirements under the law. So we
There's
feel good.
flexibility.
We feel that this is on target, but if things change a little bit, we have some room to make things change.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions or discussion? Well, hearing none, the resolution calling for a public hearing on issuance of certificates of participation and authorizing the publication of a notice of hearing is on page 225. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, City Hall project acceptance, bid acceptance.
Mayor, members, the information's included in your packet, and there's quite a little bit of information related to this, but as you are aware, a month or two ago, you allowed us to solicit bids. By us, I mean your staff and really your construction management firm, R.W. Carlstrom. So this is based on the plans and specifications that you've worked through. The information that's included in your packet includes all kinds of stuff, but includes recommendation through my office related to moving forward on the vast majority of these divisional bids. Just to be clear, you have a construction manager at risk system, so technically you are only signing one contract for construction with your construction manager, but we bid it in separate divisions, as you might imagine. Sheetrocking is one division, masonry is one, electrical work, plumbing, HVAC, all those things are bid separately. And so what you see is the result of those bids going forward. As has been your tradition here, we provide opportunity for both online bidding and in-person bidding, and you had a few people that showed up in person to bid, so those were considered as a part of this already. The colored table that you see included in your packet provides for all the bids that we received across all those divisions. And as I started to say, you'll note that we're recommending the vast majority of the low bids for approval. You'll see there's a couple that are not being recommended for approval or are being rejected. And those fall under a couple of different categories, the primary which they didn't follow the rules for bidding, like a bid bond or something like that. So that's what we're trying to illustrate to you as a part of that colored table if you had the chance to look through it. I think it's important to be really crystal clear about the financial impact of this should you move forward based on the bids that we're recommending you approve in this packet and allowances for bids that we're not asking you to approve. Maybe we had one bidder and they didn't have their bid bond, so we're not including that, and those are in the yellow. This number includes all of the greens and all of the yellows. So this gives us not a perfect, but very close to what the total cost for the construction, general conditions, and your construction manager costs are going to be. And that cost is right around $6.4 million. That does not include acquisition or your architects or engineers or any of those kind of things. So I wanted to make sure that you understood where you were at and what this means from a fiscal impact standpoint. I want to be really clear about that. There are a number of things that you've provided for as a part of this process that include things like comparative cost analysis that you did in December of last year. One of you had sent me an email about that, and so the comparative cost of this continues to be on track with what you anticipated in December of last year. There's great information online and within the packet from, I think it's December 9th, if I remember right. And so if people want to take a look at that, they sure can. This includes high-efficiency boilers. It includes the opportunity for solar interconnection with SIMPA that we've talked about. It includes additional insulation. It includes heat pumps. It includes, well, one of you mentioned this at a previous workshop, and I hadn't thought about it, and I thought, well, that's for sure. When you talk about or think about, say, sustainability, you're reusing a building. And so that's sustainability as well. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have related to this, but the goal of the resolution is to illustrate the acceptance of those that are recommended and to reject specific bids that may not have followed the criteria for bidding or have other issues. Of those that have other issues or there's allowance provided for, there are two things that will happen with those. It is possible that some may come back and we will rebid those as a part of a process, or it is possible that underneath your purchase policy, you've provided staff with authority to spend up to a certain amount. We just might go out and get somebody to do that for $2,000 rather than a full bid process, which costs you money as well. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions as best as I can. This would provide movement forward for the project. And if you do approve the resolution, your construction manager, R.W. Carlstrom, will go out and issue contracts with all of these folks that are in the greens or that are listed as a part of that resolution. Again, I'm happy to answer questions as best I can.
All right, Brad.
So I know a lot of people are going to look at the price tag and their eyes are going to get very wide on it. Yes, it is almost $9 million. I had asked the city administrator what our previous estimates were because I knew it was somewhere around $10 million. To either expand on the current city hall building or new construction, the estimates were 10 to 13 million. And our current municipal building is inadequate. From a public safety perspective, we've got mandated changes. The HVAC and mechanicals are failing. We're looking at a $3 million Band-Aid to the current facility. That is probably a 10-year fix at best. So down the road, we would be looking at more expensive changes. That 10 to 13 million, even if we kick the can 10 years down the road, we've got a $3 million investment plus the 10 to 13 million. You're probably looking 15 to 20 million at least with inflationary. I'm planning on living in the city a long time. From a long-term property tax expense, this is actually the best opportunity from a long-term property tax impact. That's why I'm in favor. We are doing a number of things to improve the energy efficiency, as well to improve the sustainability side of things. The one thing I am going to say is I am disappointed from a sustainability perspective on the new construction aspect. Simply put, we are using boilers that are powered by natural gas. Yes, it is more energy efficient. At a prior workshop, though, I advised going down the rabbit hole of energy efficient versus sustainable. And this is something that is a decades-long decision. Once it's built, it can't be changed. I'm still voting in favor of it, but you're still going to be burning fossil fuels in order to heat the new section of this. And I'm not talking about the old section. Obviously, it's a much bigger turnover on the older section, and we are making improvements on that. So as we look at future building projects, I would prefer that we once again that we look at what is sustainable versus the energy efficiency side of things. Yes, it is cheaper up front to go the energy efficiency angle, but the long-term environmental impacts on it, and that's what we're looking at is we are adding to carbon emissions by adding natural gas heating in the new addition. We are offsetting some of that with the renovations, but we could have both. Yes, there is a cost, but we have to make a decision of, at some point, we have to make the decision of sustainability. As I said, that doesn't impact. I will still be voting in favor of this, but I am disappointed that the new version is using natural gas to heat it, so.
Any other discussion? I just wanted to briefly piggyback on what Brad had said about the current city hall, and just note that staying in our current city hall and doing nothing is not an option. There are external pressures on us because it is our police station as well that would necessitate renovations there. And so this is really the best, most forward-looking and long-term, most cost-effective choice for the city. So I'm excited about it, and I'm going to vote yes as well. So.
Madam Mayor, if I could make one addition here as well. The council had talked about, and for people that might be familiar with the building, there are really 2 bays of large restroom facilities because of the number of people that were supported there. We did have a discussion about revamping those. The recommendation from my office is not to accept the alternate that provided for that. That alternate cost was about $110,000. It's certainly something that we could look at later in the project, depending on where you end up related to change orders and contingencies. But providing for a redo of those restrooms is not part of the recommendation that I'm bringing forward.
All right, I'm not seeing any hands go up, so the resolution directing R.W. Carlstrom as construction manager at risk to enter contracts for construction and remodel of the new city hall appears on pages 135 through 137 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye. The resolution is approved. Next up, a sustainability task force establishment.
Mayor, members, Corey Johnson, who's your new Sustainability and Communications Coordinator, is here to talk about this just a little bit. I do want to mention one process issue is typically appointments of this type are on your consent agenda. But the reason that I put this on your action item agenda or new business agenda is because I think, at least from my perspective, it was the thought that this provided additional emphasis on this issue, which the council's expressed very clearly is important to you. So this provides some additional emphasis. This is a task force that you established quite a little while ago, and this is the membership. So Corey, I'll let you talk about some of those goals and who those members are. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for having me tonight to talk a little bit about the council. So the purpose of this task force really is to have a community-driven, action-oriented group of individuals across the sectors in our community who can really help us advance sustainability initiatives. So in your packet within this memo, you see the listed individuals. We have about 9 members, and they represent sectors including healthcare, education, local government, as well as a couple of members from our city council here. And really, we're looking at our initial priorities for this group is to first create an inventory of what are we doing? You know, what connections, what do we have? What assets do we have that already exist within our organizations themselves? And then looking at how can we collaborate? How can we move projects forward? Are there opportunities that are already existing that we can help get that momentum started with by having this collaboration and this partnership formed? And so really that's the first step. And then the second is really to look at education, awareness, and engagement with the community members. I always say within sustainability, your first hurdle, your first step is that awareness piece, that education piece. And by having this task force, this partnership, we will be able to reach so many more people in our community in different ways and make that more impactful. And then from there, we want to look at and identify projects that we can implement. The goal with this will be to, establish shared priorities that reflect the city's goals, but also the goals of our membership organizations and our community itself. And then from there, we'll develop some practical projects. And what I mean by that is tangible projects that we can measure, that we can actually move forward as a shared task force. And so after this meeting, I'll be sending out some calendar invites to find out times that work best. But the first meeting will be scheduled for September. And I will take any questions or any thoughts that the council has.
All right, thank you. Questions for Corey? Carrie?
How do you envision the reporting to the council? Because I think we'll be curious to see how this goes. Can you answer that, what the vision is for that
Yes,
reporting?
I think it's, the city administrator, Todd, can always jump in here too. But I kind of see this as twofold where, I will be coming back as a staff member that's supporting this, task force and being able to report that way. But then also, depending on the projects that come out from this group, we might have some of our members from the different organizations that are part of this come and present and talk about the projects that we're doing together. And so I think there might be kind of an opportunity to have both, of where the city staff is coming and sharing, but so is these other organizations that are taking part.
And I think I would, in particular, be really interested in the asset mapping that you all do, because I think it'd be helpful for all of us to know what else is going on in the community, sustainability-wise, what's happening with Gustavus, Regional Treatment Center, largest employers. I just think that would be really interesting for us to know, as we're, I guess, endorsing this development of this task force tonight.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I think from a practical standpoint, this will function very similarly to what we see with, frankly, community conversations, and that you'll get some information back, and it could go a number of different directions, which it could include, we own that, we don't own that, we're doing it as a collective, and there may be some newer ideas that pop up as a part of this, things that we might not be involved with, but our partners might be. And so that could be at the micro level or the macro level. And I think we're going to learn a lot, and excited to try and see what our community is interested in and what those partners are really interested in participating in.
And I'd like to note that the responses that I've gotten so far from the members who are interested in joining seem to be overwhelmingly positive. They seem excited to get started and to be able to collaborate with the city and to really kind of think in this community-oriented way, to really hopefully have some really high-impact projects and move sustainability forward in the city of St. Peter.
Some of this stuff might even hit your comprehensive plan in the future. We've talked about integration with comprehensive plan on sustainability issues, so some of the information might get to that as well. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Thanks, Corey, for explaining all that. I can say this is something I've been pushing for several years now. With my work with Climate Smart Municipalities and Minnesota Climate Cities Coalition, there's City of Morris, Minnesota. It's been phrased as the Morris model. They started with a similar task force to this, where they brought in the community partners, the college, the county, the school district, similar to what Corey has assembled here. One of the things Griffin Peck, who was the sustainability coordinator in Morris for a while now, he's working with West Central Initiative. He said the big thing here is not necessarily the largest projects, but just all of the little projects, doing the assessment. What is Gustavus doing, and what can the city do? Some of it is coordination, but so much of it is just itemizing what can we do, and just checking off all those little projects. And once you take a step back and look at those small projects that you're working on or you've completed, you realize you've come a long ways. I'm super excited about this. I've been wanting this for a while, and I'm really interested to see what direction we take. So
I also am very excited to serve on this task force. I look forward to seeing what we can accomplish.
Thanks, everybody, council members, staff, and the community members as well. So if there aren't any further questions or discussion, the resolution appears on page 240 through 241 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. I think this is our last item of new business tonight. City assistance request for the St. Peter High School Homecoming Parade.
Mayor, members, there's great information included in your packet, as well as the request from the school district for a homecoming parade on September 22nd. The route would be the traditional route that we've seen over the last few years, really starting at the middle school on Broadway, traveling east on Broadway to 3rd Street, traveling south on 3rd Street to Grace, and then traveling back up the hill on Grace to Lincoln Drive or the middle school. They've submitted the information related to their insurance, And so, again, resolution included in your packet for your approval.
Any questions for Todd or discussion? Hearing none, the resolution approving the request by School District 508 to conduct a homecoming parade on city streets is on page 244 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We will move on to reports. I have no report this evening. Is there a report for any council member? Carrie?
I just wanted to let our council know to save the date for what was called the RETA annual meeting. The Regional Economic Development Alliance annual meeting is now called State of the Economy, and it's back in St. Peter this year at Gustavus. The date is Tuesday, October 21st from 5 to 8, and I hope that many of you can make it again. The keynote speaker is Kurt Sellers, CEO of Minnesota Business Partnership. And I'm also hoping our city administration can extend an invitation to the EDA and any other St. Peter dignitaries that are applicable. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I have it on my calendar. I'm looking forward to it. Any other council member reports? Hearing none. Reports from our city administrator.
Madam Mayor, I'll be quiet the rest of the evening.
Wow. All right. Well, in that case, the only thing left is to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.